This is Action You, the program about you doing what you need to do. What a man has the capacity to be, he has the obligation to become. The whole point of Action You is you become the superhero you need to become. And welcome to this week's Action You. And I have with me my special guest, community activist, humanitarian, Mr. Benjamin Graham, Big Mouth.
Hey, how you doing, man?
I'm doing great, Ben, and I'm glad that I had a chance to come across you. His story is very inspiring. Matter of fact, the whole point of going to action, no matter the circumstances, no matter the discouragements, no matter the heartaches and the setbacks, Action U is about those who have taken superhuman circumstances and came out victoriously. And this man has quite a story to tell. Big Mouth, I have to call you. How did you acquire the name Big Mouth Ben?
Well, Big Mouth Ben is a name that I initially created the name as a marketing name. I used to be in a wheelchair from a garbage truck accident. I used to work on the back of the garbage truck through a day labor. And one day, they were backing back on the garbage truck while I was on the back, and they backed into a dump truck, and that crushed my pelvis. That injury put me in a wheelchair. Now, about a year later, I healed, and I took that same wheelchair, being an entrepreneur. I took that same wheelchair, and I put a cooler in it, and I put snacks on top, and started walking around selling snacks. But then I came up with the name, an idea, why don't I advertise for the other local businesses? So I made billboards on the side of the wheelchair, and I had to come up with a slogan. So I say, if you want to sell it, let me tell it, Big Mouth Ben. And ever since then, that name has kind of become permanent, and it's also the name of my store today.
I know that you were born in North Carolina, correct?
Yes, sir.
And you were raised in what you said, holiness church, a Pentecostal maybe?
Yes.
And by your grandmother?
Yes,
So, as we deal with how you became the person that you are, we'll share with the people how you hit underneath the bottom, not the bottom, but underneath the bottom, and your descent into the lowest chamber of human degradation. Tell us about it.
Yeah, well, like I say, it was the seeds you mentioned earlier. Two seeds were planted in my childhood, spiritual seeds, raised in the holiness church, and also an entrepreneur seed. You know, I mentioned earlier that I was this entrepreneur. Well, you know, at age 6, I was in the gas station. I saw someone turning empty glass drink bottles for a deposit back. Yeah. And my eyes got that big. I said, you gave him money for an empty bottle? And the cashier said, yes. I said, I know where a lot of those bottles are. And I grabbed my red wagon, and I went and collected the bottles. So I made $2 off the load of bottles, and ever since then, I've been hooked on making money. So that entrepreneur seed followed me all my life. Now, there were several seeds in my childhood, too, that there were negative seeds. A seed of molestation. While in the woods looking for bottles, I was molested by a stranger. And those seeds would later fester in my life to create mental illness, which, later on in life, I made some bad decisions and ended up struggling with drug addiction. And it was a 17-year struggle until I was at my bottom or below the bottom, sleeping under a bridge on Auburn Avenue. And, by then I came to Atlanta. But so it was during that struggle, during that course, that I just felt so much hopelessness and self-defeat. I just felt like I was never win in life. And back under that bridge, there was a spiritual awakening. It was a conversation with God, and basically it said that I love you wherever you're at, but it's up to you where you want to be. And at that point, something inside me snapped. And I decided to let all things go. And I tell people to let the stuff go that's negative. Let the childhood abuse, let the unforgiveness, let those things go. Because those things hold on to you and they drag you down. They serve as anchors. And once I released all that stuff, I was able to move forward. I felt delivered from the drugs, and I started moving forward.
Was there ever any professional help to overcome that you received? How were you able to overcome molestation at such a young age that took root in you? And how were you able to overcome the drug addictions without any professional help?
No, I had plenty of help. Matter of fact, during the struggle with my addiction, I often went into programs, but it just wasn't ready. I think it was a combination of the spiritual awakening and my willingness to commit to the process. One thing I will say that there's a lot of communities or organizations that will help you with addiction and mental illness. And what happened is that I was dual treated. I was treated for the mental disorder, major depressive disorder, and I was also treated for the drug addiction. But the thing that was different this time was that spiritual awakening and my more willingness to be helped. And so though I do give credit to those things and those people that played a role in my recovery.
Ben, I remember when I came to Atlanta about 3.5 years ago, and life is a funny synchronicity, as I mentioned. Mr. Ben was selling refreshments. You bring the whole bus on the whole bike on MARTA train. And I'm always wondering, I said, is he ever anybody going to try to steal from him? But it's amazing that I wouldn't have thought that we would come full circle. I would be here interviewing you concerning this. It's just life is strange. Now, this bike, tell them about this bike that I saw you riding on in MARTA, selling refreshments in hot sun, summertime, like what we're experiencing now.
Yeah, earlier I mentioned about the wheelchair. Well, I actually came up with an idea. I said, if I could put this stuff on a bike, I could get around a little faster, and I can go more places. So I took I went and through trial and error, I tried to put a rack on the bike, and I finally succeeded in securing it, enough to hold a cooler. So I had the cooler on the back of the bike, and I had the snacks in front of the bike, and so that was the idea I came up with to sell my snacks. Now the bike actually became yellow after that spiritual awakening. The yellow represents the sunshine, and that's to inspire and uplift people, to brighten people's lives, I say. But that's pretty much where the idea for the bike came. And I would actually get on MARTA to get to other places, to sell in different neighborhoods. I would get on the train and get off at the West End station and ride around in the West End and sell my snacks, and go to Doraville and ride around in the Doraville area to sell my snacks. Was very determined. I credit determination. There's a saying that I came up with. I said, dreams ahead, proceed with determination. And I'm so excited to share that with people because it worked in my life, and I know it'll work in anybody else's life. You got to have that determination. There were times that one time the chain broke on this bike, and I had a bike full of snacks. And rather than put the bike down, I decided to push it through the route. I had built up a route that I would go, and without a chain, I literally walked the bike through that route. I wasn't going to stop because I needed the route to make the money to buy a chain. So I said, you know what, I'm going to make it go. And everybody was watching me, and I'm on this bike, and I'm kicking like I'm on a kickstand, like I'm on a skateboard to make the bike move, and people laugh. People are like, man, don't even have a chain on his bike, and he's still out here trying to sell his snacks. But to me, I didn't care about what people thought. I knew what I needed to do, and I was doing it.
How many hours did you work per day pushing your snacks? Because what people have to understand, entrepreneurship is not a 9 to 5. So how many hours, by and large, did you have to work?
Man, that varies. Sometimes I was out there for 16 hours. It's not a whole lot of money to be made from selling snacks, especially at such a small level as this. It takes a lot of hours. It takes a lot of hours, and it also takes saving your money. I'm selling a bag of chips for 50 cents that I paid maybe 30 cents for, 35 cents for. So you imagine how many bags of chips I've got to sell to make $1. I've got to sell 7 bags of chips to make $1. So you can imagine how long it took to accumulate this $60, $70 I did, or $80. Some days good, some days were better than others. But I saved what I made.
Yeah, I saved what I made. In your story of overcoming, I also wanted to show people, get a good look at this gentleman now. A good look, all right? And ladies, he's married, so it's not for that reason. And look at this gentleman, the same man that was at his lowest in homelessness. Was there homelessness and the drug addiction at the same time?
Well, drug addiction resulted in the homelessness. Actually, matter of fact, I'll share, I went through a program, and after the injury of the wheelchair, being in the wheelchair, I went through a program. And, I stayed committed long enough, I stayed sober long enough to even obtain housing. But once I obtained that housing, I had a prorated rent, I had low rent, I think my rent was only $25 a month through this program. And I was still, I came up with the idea, I was still selling my snacks, but addiction had took hold. And even with a $25 rent, I was still evicted from my apartment. And so that resulted into the sleeping under a bridge. I had nowhere else to go. At first, I would go down to the crack houses and they would let me sleep and spend the night in the kitchen because I would go out and make my money and come back and get high when I was suffering from addiction. So the addiction resulted into me being homeless.
At what point did you decide you had enough?
Like I say, it was, like I mentioned before, it was that spiritual awakening. I had a conversation with God, and I said there had to be more to life. It had to be more to life than what I was going through. I had a good heart. Even with the struggle of addiction, I didn't rob, I didn't break in houses, break in cars. I would go clean a toilet or clean up for somebody at the store. The very stores, like the one I have today, I would go in and ask them, can I sweep and mop and take the trash out for $4 or $5? I'll take that $4 or $5, I'll buy me a case of water. And from that point, I would sell my snacks, and I also supported my habit that way. So that's where it was a lot of struggle. I started a lot of days from scratch because I would spend all my money up at night on the drug addiction. But like I said, I said to myself, it's got to be more to life than this. And that's when I received that spiritual awakening. God said it is. I promise to love you wherever you at. If you want to be under the bridge, he said he'll love me under the bridge. He said if you want to go to prison, I'll love you in prison. But it's up to you where I love you at. And at that point, that's when I decided, I said, you know what? I'm going to put down the addiction. I'm going to get help for my addiction, and I'm going to move forward. And I'm going to give it all I got with some determination of unwavering action.
That is great news. And we'll be back. There's more to his story, and this is Action U.
Hey, man, let's drop a little motivation for the radio.
Alright, let me see what I got. Okay, I got some. I really want success, so I like. I'm trying to see a million, so I like. I know I gotta make it, so I like. If you really want success, you better act like. You're trying to see a million, better act like. You wanna be a boss, better act like it. I got money, you can tell, cause I'm acting like it. Been there since the beginning of us, and they'll be there at the end of us.
Thank you, Lord.
I'm speaking the truth and I love it. Without God, I can do nothing. I tried it already, it didn't work. Ended up with a lot of pain and some hurt. Years of addiction, drug habit, started in the kitchen. I smoked a whole brick in a weekend. There's things that I don't want to mention. Realizing that I messed up, went back to my plug and I fessed up. We were best
best friend, so he let me go. 17 years I was on the blow. I spent a lot of time on 4th Street, praying that life would abort me. My own family couldn't afford me, but the truth is God did it for me. Thank you, Lord.
And this is Action U, and I have a second very special guest with me at this time, Miss Tanya Graham, the love life of Mr. Big Mouth, Benjamin Graham. Let me tell you, for the sake of time, their love story. They first met in college at the University of Georgia, correct? And reunited through social media. 24 years later, in 2013. So you all been married almost approximately 3 years, but you've known each other longer. Oh, go ahead.
Actually,
We've been married going on a year.
Oh.
We've been married going on a year. Yeah, we dated for a little over a year, I think it was, and we got married last August, and so we got an anniversary coming up now. So yes, a year of marriage.
I would like to ask Tanya for a moment. I know about Ben's background, being brought up by his grandmother to more or less be raised in the faith, to believe in God. What's your background, Tanya?
I'm originally from Georgia, and I was raised by my mother and my grandmother. My father was in and out of our life, but he was there when he could be. We spent probably about 11 years in Rochester, New York. We moved back down here and about 11 years old. And I have also some background. My grandmother was definitely a praying woman, and she attended church on a regular basis. So we were able to hear the word of God and learn at a young age as well. So my mom and my grandmother was a major part of us growing up. So yeah, definitely some of the same upbringing, a little different in our experiences because I lived more in the suburbs and wasn't exposed to as much as what Ben has been. We share that a lot, talking about what our past history was and how it affected the decisions that we made as we grew up. But definitely a Georgia peach.
Well, I don't see Ben arguing. I see that big old smile. What I want people to see in your of course, lovely wedding picture, Ben had overcame by the time you all reunited, correct? And what did you talk about when you saw each other after 24 years on social media?
Oh, wow. We had a lot to talk about. I had read a little bit of his bio on social media, and I was able to get a little bit about his homelessness and addiction. But when we finally had a chance to sit down face to face and meet, he laid it all out. He told me about the crack. He told me about the living under a bridge. He put it out there so that I would have the opportunity to say if it's this something I want to deal with or not. So that was one of the things that I appreciate about him was his honesty, because we don't see that very often. And I think it was show character for him to be that honest. So our first date was kind of filling each other in on what we had done on the last 24 years. So yes, he was very honest and upfront and laid it all out for me. I let him know a little bit about what I was, and we felt we were back in the right place. Yeah.
So let me just say, when you say it like that, you felt faith, God, destiny brought you back together. You want to say something, don't you, Ben?
Well, definitely. I say Tanya's my missing rib. It was definitely something that God meant to be. It was like when you mentioned before about the conversation we had, we got back together. I always tell people this, and they laugh because I laid everything out on the table. And, at one point she says, I got to use the restroom. And so she got up from the table and went to the restroom. Those was the longest 3 minutes of my life. I just knew she was going out the back door, But no, I was not, because it's something that God has brought together, has truly brought together.
That's wonderful. One thing that I think is I know by experience that it's good when you decided to go from the bicycle delivery of snacks to the being a entrepreneur. I mean, all out store, bricks and mortar entrepreneur. Give us some of your experience with that.
Okay. Well, I think we was talking about it earlier. First, I wanted to clarify when I was telling you about the struggling with the bike wasn't always yellow. The bike became yellow after I overcame addiction. The yellow represented the sunshine to brighten people's life. So now at that point, anytime the bike was yellow was a sober time for me. And then I spent I was in recovery for a couple years by the time we reunited. At that point, by the time I met her, I had my own route. What I was doing was cleaning windows. I had cleaning contracts with a few of the local businesses in the area, the Curry Market, the pharmacy, Subway, different places. But anyway, I had a route, and I was going down Auburn Avenue, and I saw a police sign in the Robinson building. And I looked in there, and it was like I had a vision. I looked in and I said, I see coolers to the right, I see a counter across the back, and something inside me like, I think this is something I should go for, but I was still a little skeptical. Here I am on the bike, and I'm working long, and I'm operating a business on the bike, but to step into such a full business operation, I was still a little reserved. It was the soothing voice of my wife that kind of gave me that boost. And I called her, I said, sweetie, there's a police sign here on Auburn Avenue. And she said, well, let's call them and see what they're asking. And so they gave us the terms, and we said, well, let's go for it. I did, I tell people all the time, we started the business with little or nothing. We just kind of was so excited to go into business. And I would say, me, I guess being sober, being in recovery, I had this newfound courage. Most people would probably go into business safely. They'll make sure they got enough money. They'll go in, but I just dove in. I was like, well, I know that the companies were going to bring the coolers. We just had to stock them up. So I think after that phone call to Tanya, I decided that we'd go for it. We decided that we would go for it and we would open it.
As what has been for you all, for the two of you as husband and wife, working as entrepreneurs, what has been most challenging for you to try to fulfill this dream at being all out owners, business owners? What keeps you going? What keeps you inspired?
Okay, you know what? I want to let her comment on that. I know we're going to talk long hours, but I would love for her to share that part because.
So we're talking about challenges and what keeps us going. I would say for me, and I'm sure for Ben as well, just based on the conversations we had, is any time that you're working with people, you deal with a lot of different personalities. And so that in itself can be a challenge because you want to be able to minister to people and serve them at the same time. But there's a balance to it because it's still a business. So one of the biggest challenges is understanding the balance between ministry and business. And so that's something that we've gotten better with over the last 2 years. I think when we first started out, I think we were more ministry, but we had to figure out we had to bring it, balance it a little bit more. And it's been working out well. What keeps us going is that same thing, is that the people that come in, that we meet, being able to share our story has helped a lot of people. So that ministry keeps us going and keep us wanting to open up every day, is be able to see when people are able to say, your story helped me. You being open and honest and testifying helped me deal with some of my own issues, or it even kept me from going in the wrong direction, is one of the things that keeps us going each day. So it's funny how it is that balance. The ministry definitely for me, and I'm sure for you too as well, keeps us going. And then we want to leave a legacy also for our family. So we work hard also to build the generational wealth that we would like for our family, because we do have, family that we would like to be able to take over the business one day and leave something for them and our grandkids and great-grandkids. So that's important as well.
There's another aspect to the business here. Ben is an entertainer.
Yes.
And what type of music, and he's already has T-shirts and CDs produced, and briefly tell us about your second business or your first business, but they have two businesses. And so now we up in your business to learn your business, all right?
Yes. Well, the second business is the Profitable Publishing Company, which is a music company. We release positive music, spiritual music, music that heals. There's a lot of mainstream music out, and a lot of it encourages people, in the wrong. Not that I attack the music, but I just feel that our community needs choices. They need better options. There's a lot of pain in the world. The pain I experience myself. There's millions of people going through what I'm going through right now. Not only do I help them by telling my story, but I also entertain people and help them that way. And I'm branding myself as a motivational entertainer. So I put out positive music. Today's event was one of the reasons I'm here today, and was here performing today and speaking. But mostly we're known for, I have a motto. The motto is that I'd rather save 2 souls than to mislead 1 million. And so that's my commitment to releasing positive and spiritual music. I call it music that heals. Yes.
All right. There's never enough time to mention how wonderful it is to meet real people, such as the Grahams, and how a man can come from the very bottom and raise himself to the top. Just as what Ben has done. Some of you are like that are watching this show. You are at your bottom. You're homeless or you're jobless and you feel hopeless. But as you can see, regular people just like you that found themselves in deep underwater circumstances, they became submarines and swam through the deepest darkness to their success. That is what the Action U is about. What the capacity you have to be, you have the opportunity to become. Until next time. This is Action U, the program about you doing what you need to do. What a man has the capacity to be, he has the obligation to become. The whole point of Action U is you become the superhero you need to become.
Call me through, thank you, Lord. I am who I am because of you. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. You call me through, thank you, Lord. I am who I am.